Chapter 3. Hypnosis. While brainwashing is a well-known form of mind control that many people have heard of, hypnosis is also an important type that should be considered. For the most part, those who are familiar with hypnosis know about it from watching stage shows of participants doing ridiculous acts. While this is a type of hypnosis, there is a lot more to it. This chapter is going to concentrate more on hypnosis as a form of mind control. What is hypnosis? To start with is the definition of hypnosis. According to experts, hypnosis is considered a state of consciousness that involves the focused attention along with the reduced peripheral awareness that is characterized by the participant's increased capacity to respond to suggestions that are given.
This means that the
participant is going to enter a different state of mind and will be much more susceptible to following the suggestions that are given by the hypnotist. It is widely recognized that there are two theory groups that help to describe what is happening during the hypnosis period. The first one is known as the altered state theory. Those who follow this theory see that hypnosis is like a trance or a state of mind that is altered, where the participant will see that their awareness is somewhat different from what they would notice in their ordinary conscious state. The other theory is the non-state theories. Those who follow this theory do not think that those who undergo hypnosis are entering into different states of consciousness. Rather, the participant is working with the hypnotist to enter a type of imaginative role enactment. While in hypnosis, the participant is thought to have more concentration and focus that couples together with a new ability to intensely concentrate on a specific memory or thought. During this process, the participant is also able to block out other sources that might be distracting to them. The hypnotized subjects are thought to show a heightened ability to respond to suggestions that are given to them, especially when these suggestions come from the hypnotist. The process that is used in order to place the participant into hypnosis is known as hypnotic induction and will involve a series of suggestions and instructions that are used as a type of warm-up. There are many different thoughts that are brought up by the experts as to what the definition of hypnosis is. The wide variety of these definitions comes from the fact that there are just so many different circumstances that come with hypnosis, and no one person has the same experience when they are going through it. Some of the different definitions of hypnosis by experts include the following. 1. A special case of psychological regression, Michael Nash. 2. Ernest Hilgard and Janet Hilgard have written in great depth about hypnosis and describe it as a way for the body to dissociate from itself in another plane of consciousness. 3. Sabin and Co., two well-known social psychologists, have used the term of role theory to describe hypnosis. Under this definition, the participant is playing the role of being hypnotized. They are acting like they are hypnotized rather than actually being in that state. 4. According to T.X. Barber, hypnosis is defined based on the different non-hypnotic behavioral parameters. Under this definition, the participant will define the task motivation and label the situation that they are in as hypnosis, since they have no other thing to call it. 5. Weiertzenhofer wrote in some of his earlier writings about hypnosis. He conceptualized that hypnosis is a state of enhanced suggestibility. In more recent writings, he went on to define the act of hypnosis as a form of influence by one person exerted on another through the medium or agency of suggestion. 6. Brenman and Gill used the psychoanalytic concept of regression in the service of the ego to help describe what hypnosis was all about. Under this definition, the participant is willing to go under hypnosis and into the altered state because it helps out their ego and makes them to feel better. 7. According to Edmonston, a person who has undergone hypnosis is simply in a deep state of relaxation. 8. Spiegel and Spiegel have stated that hypnosis is simply something that happens because of the biological capacity of the participant. 9. Erickson states that hypnosis is an altered, inner-directed, and special state of functioning. The participant is still able to function and is conscious of things around them, but they are in an altered state compared to their normal state. There are many different views and statements that have been made about hypnosis. Some people believe that hypnosis is very real and are paranoid that the government and others around them will try to control their minds. Others do not believe in hypnosis at all and think that it is just sleight of hand. Most likely, the idea of hypnosis as mind control falls somewhere in the middle. There are 3 stages of hypnosis that are recognized by the psychological community. These 3 stages include induction, suggestion, and susceptibility. Each of them is important to the hypnosis process and will be discussed further below. Induction. The first stage of hypnosis is induction. Before the participant undergoes the full hypnosis, they will be introduced to the hypnotic induction technique. For many years this was thought to be the method used to put the subject into the hypnotic trance, but that definition has changed some in modern times. Some of the non-state theorists have seen this stage slightly differently. Instead, they see this stage as the method to heighten the participants' expectations of what is going to happen, defining the role that they will play, getting their attention to focus in the right direction, and any of the other steps that are needed in order to lead the participant into the right direction for hypnosis. There are several induction techniques that can be used during hypnosis. The most well-known and influential methods is Braid's eye fixation technique or Braidism. There are quite a few variations of this approach, including the Stanford Hypnotic Susceptibility Scale, SHSS. This scale is the most used tool for research in the field of hypnosis. To use the Braid induction techniques, you will have to follow a couple of steps. The first one is to take any object that you can find that is bright, such as a watch case, and hold it between the middle, 4, and thumb fingers on the left hand. You will want to hold this object about 815 inches from the eyes of the participant. Hold the object somewhere above the forehead so that it produces a lot of strain on the eyelids and eyes during the process, so that the participant is able to maintain a fixed stare on the object at all times. The hypnotist must then explain to the participant that they should keep their eyes always fixed onto the object. The patient will also need to focus their mind completely on the idea of that particular object. They should not be allowed to think of other things or let their minds and eyes wander, or else the process will not be successful. After a short time, the participant's eyes will begin to dilate. With a little more time, the participant will begin to assume a wavy motion. If the participant involuntarily closes their eyelids when the middle and 4 fingers of the right hand are carried from the eyes to the object, then they are in the trance. If not, then the participant will need to begin again. Make sure to let the participant know that they are to allow their eyes to close once the fingers are carried in a similar motion back towards the eyes again. This will get the patient to go into the altered state of mind that is known as hypnosis. While Braid stood by his own technique, he did acknowledge that using the induction technique of hypnosis is not always necessary for every case. In fact, researchers in modern times have usually found that the induction technique is not as important to the effects of hypnotic suggestion as previously thought. Over time, other alternatives and variations of the original hypnotic induction technique have been developed, although the Braid method is still considered the best. Suggestion. The next stage of hypnosis is known as the suggestion stage. When hypnosis was first described by James Braid, the term of suggestion was not used. Instead, Braid referred to this stage as the act of having the conscious mind of the participant focus on one central and dominant idea. The way that Braid did this was to stimulate or reduce the physiological functioning of the different regions on the participant's body. Later on, Braid began to place more and more emphasis on the use of different nonverbal and verbal forms of suggestion in order to get the participant into the hypnotic state of mind. These would include using waking suggestions as well as self-hypnosis. Another well-known hypnotist, Hippolyta Bernheim, continued to shift the emphasis of the physical state of the process of hypnosis over to the psychological process that contained verbal suggestions. According to Bernheim, hypnotism is the induction of a psychical condition that is peculiar and which will increase the susceptibility of the suggestion to the participant. Often, he stated, the hypnotic state that is induced will help to facilitate the suggestion, even though this might not be necessary to start the susceptibility in the first place. Modern hypnotism uses a lot of different suggestion forms in order to be successful, such as metaphors, insinuations, indirect or non-verbal suggestions, direct verbal suggestions, and other figures of speech and suggestions that are non-verbal. Some of the non-verbal suggestions that may be used during the suggestion stage would include physical manipulation, voice tonality, and mental imagery. One of the distinctions that are made in the types of suggestion that can be offered to the participant includes those suggestions that are delivered with permission and those that are more authoritarian in manner. One of the things that have to be considered in regards to hypnosis is the difference between the unconscious and the conscious mind. There are several hypnotists who view the stage of suggestion as a way of communicating that is directed for the most part to the conscious mind of the subject. Others in the field will see it in the opposite direction. They see the communication occurring between the agent and the subconscious or unconscious mind. Proponents of the first class of thought included Bernheim, Braid, and other pioneers of the Victorian age. They believed that the suggestions were being addressed straight to the conscious part of the subject's mind, rather than to the unconscious part. In fact, Braid goes further and actually defines the act of hypnotism as the focused attention upon the suggestion or the dominant idea. The fear of most people that hypnotists will be able to get into their unconscious and make them do and think things beyond their control is simply impossible according to those who follow this train of thought. The nature of the mind has also been the determinant of the different conceptions about suggestion. Those who believe that the responses given are through the unconscious mind, such as in the case of Milton Erickson, bring up the cases of using indirect suggestions. Many of these indirect suggestions, such as stories or metaphors, will hide their intended meaning in order to conceal it from the conscious mind of the subject. Subliminal suggestion is a form of hypnosis that relies completely on the theory of the unconscious mind. If the unconscious mind were not being used in hypnosis, this kind of suggestion would not be possible. The differences between the two groups are fairly easy to recognize. Those who believe that the suggestions will go primarily to the conscious mind will use direct verbal instructions and suggestions, while those who believe the suggestions will go primarily to the unconscious mind will use stories and metaphors with hidden meanings. In either of these theories of thought, the participant will need to be able to focus on one object or idea. This allows them to be led in the direction that is needed in order to go into the hypnotic state. Once the suggestion stage has been completed successfully, the participant will then be able to move into the third stage, susceptibility. Susceptibility. Over time, it has been observed that people will react differently to hypnosis. Some people find that they are able to fall into a hypnotic trance fairly easily and do not have to put much effort into the process at all. Others may find that they are able to get into the hypnotic trance, but only after a prolonged period of time and with some effort. Still others will find that they are not able to get into the hypnotic trance and even after continued efforts will not reach their goals. One thing that researchers have found interesting about the susceptibility of different participants is that this factor remains constant. If you have been able to easily get into a hypnotic state of mind, you are likely to be the same way for the rest of your life. On the other hand, if you have always had difficulty in reaching the hypnotic state and have never been hypnotized, then it is likely that you never will. There have been several different models developed over time to try and determine the susceptibility of participants to hypnosis. Some of the older depth scales work to infer which level of trance the participant was in through the observable signs that were
was encouraged.
On the other,
associators and fantasizers. According to the
research that has been done by Deirdre Barrett, there are two types of subjects that are considered highly susceptible to the effects of hypnotism. These two groups include dissociators and fantasizers. The fantasizers will score high on the absorption scales, will be able to easily block out the stimuli of the real world without the use of hypnosis, spend a lot of their time daydreaming, had imaginary friends when they were a child, and also grew up in an environment where imaginary play was encouraged. On the other side of things are the dissociators. This group will often come from a background of trauma or childhood abuse, found ways to forget the unpleasant events that are in their past, and can escape into a numbness. If a person in this group does daydream, it is more in the terms of going blank instead of creating fantasies. Both of these groups scored high on the tests of hypnotic susceptibility. The two groups that have the highest rates of hypnotizability include those suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and dissociative identity disorder. Applications. Hypnosis as a field and as an idea has been around for a long time. Due to this, various applications have begun to emerge that help to put the process of hypnosis to good use. In fact, The various applications of using hypnosis cross many fields such as entertainment, self-improvement, military uses, and medical uses. Other areas that have recently begun to use hypnotism include rehabilitation, physical therapy, education, sports, and forensics. Even artists have begun to employ hypnotism in order to reach certain creative purposes. This is shown the most by André Breton, a surrealist artist, who has employed hypnosis among other techniques for his own creative purposes. One of the growing uses of hypnosis is in the field of self-improvement. Many people have chosen to do self-hypnosis in order to help them lose weight, reduce stress, and quit smoking. The following sections will discuss some different fields where hypnosis has been growing as well as how the process of hypnosis is working in those fields. Hypnotherapy is the use of hypnosis as a form of psychotherapy. It is used as a method to help the patient or subject through troubling issues that are plaguing them, especially when other methods of self-control are not effective. Licensed psychologists and physicians might perform a form of hypnotherapy on willing patients in order to help them treat post-traumatic stress, compulsive gambling, sleep disorders, eating disorders, anxiety, and depression. It is also possible to visit with a certified hypnotherapist to assist you in treating issues such as weight management and the cessation of smoking. If you go to a certified hypnotherapist, it is important to remember that they are not psychologists or physicians, so they will just be able to assist you with reaching the hypnotic state and not with curing your more serious ailments. It is best that you make sure whoever you are working with has been certified to provide you with these services, whether you choose a hypnotherapist or a physician. The process of hypnotherapy has been seen in many different forms in modern history. All of them have had varying degrees of success depending on the issue faced and the participants. Some of the forms that have been used include cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy. This is a combination of clinical hypnosis along with different elements of the cognitive behavioral therapy. Hypnoanalysis. This is also known as age regression hypnotherapy. Hypnosis to assist with dealing with phobias and fears. Ericksonian hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy to assist with addictions. Hypnotherapy to assist with habit control. Hypnotherapy to assist with pain management in those who suffer from chronic pain. Hypnotherapy to assist in the psychological therapy the patient is already dealing with. Hypnotherapy to assist with relaxation. Hypnotherapy to assist with skin diseases. Hypnotherapy to assist with soothing patients who are anxious about undergoing surgery. Hypnotherapy to assist with the performance of athletes before a competition. Hypnotherapy to assist with weight loss. Military applications. In addition to assisting people who deal with various health issues and addiction, people have long wondered if hypnosis has been used by military and governmental officials in order to change the way citizens think about things. So far, there has been little proof that the American military is capable or has used hypnosis to reach their goals. In fact, a declassified document that was obtained out of the Freedom of Information Act archive recently shows that the process of hypnosis has been investigated for the use in military applications. Despite the research that has been done, the study concluded that there really wasn't any evidence that the process of hypnosis would be useful in a military application. In addition, there was not any evidence that clearly showed that hypnosis actually exists in regards as an actual phenomenon outside of subject expectancy, high motivation, and ordinary suggestion. The document further goes on to explain how it would be nearly impossible for hypnosis to be used in a military application. It states, the use of hypnosis in intelligence would present certain technical problems not encountered in the clinic or laboratory. To obtain compliance from a resistant source, for example, it would be necessary to hypnotize the source under essentially hostile circumstances. There is no good evidence, clinical or experimental, that this can be done. The document goes on to explain that it has been difficult to study the effects and application of hypnosis to be used in the military because no one is able to say with certainty whether hypnosis is a unique state with some conditioned responses or just a form of suggestion that has been induced as a result of the positive relationship between the subject and the hypnotist. There are some instances, such as when a certified hypnotherapist or other professional is not available, when you may decide to use the process of self-hypnosis. This process occurs when a person is able to hypnotize themselves, often using the tactic of autosuggestion. The primary use for this technique is for self-improvement, and many people will perform it in order to reduce their stress levels, quit smoking, or to get the motivation they need to go on a diet. While some people may be able to self-hypnotize themselves, many find that they need some sort of assistance in reaching the altered state. This could include hypnotic recordings or even mind machine devices to help them reach that state. Other areas that you could use self-hypnosis for include your overall physical well-being, to relax, and to get over stage fright. Stage hypnosis. When most people think of hypnosis, they think of stage hypnosis. This is a form of entertainment that will occur in a theater or a club in front of an audience. The hypnotist is often shown as a great showman, and this helps to encourage the idea that hypnosis is completely about mind control. In the beginning of the act, the hypnotist will attempt to put the whole audience under the altered state before selecting certain individuals who meet the criteria to come up on the stage and go through different embarrassing acts while the rest of the group watches. It is unknown why stage hypnosis is so effective, although it is commonly thought to be a combination of trickery, stagecraft, physical manipulation, suggestibility, participant selection, and psychological factors. For the most part, experts believe that the participant is just playing along in a way with the hypnotist and providing a good show. These individuals may be willing to do this because they desire to be in the middle of all the attention, the pressure to please others, and the excuse to go against their own suppressors of fear make it easy to get the participants to perform. Some of the books that have been written by former stage hypnotists reinforce the idea of trickery and deception, and some are entirely composed of fake hypnosis where private whispers were used the whole time. Types of hypnosis. There are a lot of different types of hypnosis that the subject will be able to undergo. Each of them will work in slightly different ways, and some of them work to help with various issues. Some may be more fit to helping the subject to relax, while others can help more with weight loss or pain management. This section will talk in more detail about the different types of hypnosis that are available. Traditional hypnosis. The most common type of hypnosis that is used is known as traditional hypnosis. During this process, the agent is simply making suggestions directly to the subject's unconscious mind. This type of hypnosis will work the best on a subject who is known for accepting the things that they are told and they do not ask a lot of questions. If you go and visit a certified hypnotist or purchase a tape to do the process of self-hypnosis, you will be going through the process of traditional hypnosis. The reason that this type of hypnosis is so popular is because it does not take that much experience or training to learn how to do. The hypnotist is just going to have to write a simple script and tell the subject what to do. While this technique will work very well on those who accept what is going on around them, it is ineffective for those who think critically and analytically. Ericksonian hypnosis. The next type of hypnosis to be discussed is Ericksonian hypnosis. This one is a little more in-depth because it is going to require the use of metaphors and little stories. These are used in order to present the ideas and suggestions that are required to the unconscious mind. Even though this method will require a little more experience and training to do, it is a very effective and powerful method to use. The reason that it works so well is because it is able to eliminate the resistance and blockage that the subject may have to the suggestions. There are two main types of metaphors that will often be used in this kind of hypnosis: isomorphic and interspersal. For the metaphor that is interspersal in nature, the command that is explained has been embedded into the story and would not be easily discovered by the subject outside of their unconscious mind. The other type, isomorphic metaphor, is a little more common and offers directions to the unconscious mind simply by presenting a story to the subject that will offer a moral at the end. The unconscious mind will be able to draw a one-to-one relationship connecting the elements that come from the story and the elements that come with the behavior or problem situation. An example of an isomorphic metaphor is the story Boy Who Cried Wolf. Many parents will use this story to teach their children about lying, especially if their child tells a lot of lies. After hearing the story, the unconscious mind of the subject would see a parallel between the telling of lies and the boy who is in the story. They would see that telling lies might lead to a disaster and the child might be more willing to stop lying in the process. In order to prevent that disaster from occurring. Embedded technique. Another type of hypnosis is called the embedded technique. During this process, the hypnotist will tell the subject an interesting story. This story is meant to help distract and engage the conscious mind of the subject. It will also contain indirect suggestions that are hidden within the story but which will be accepted into the unconscious mind of the subject. Through this story, the hypnotist will use process instructions in order to direct the unconscious mind of the subject to find the memory that is needed. This memory is usually about learning experience that is appropriate from the past. The hypnotist will then be able to apply that learning experience to help them to make changes to their present programming. With neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, hypnotists have a great selection of the methods that they are able to use in the hypnosis process. When using the process of NLP, the hypnotist will be able to use the same thought patterns that are creating the problem in the subject. This can save a lot of time compared to going through the process of suggestion. For example, the thought patterns that are used with stress or excessive appetite will be used to help eliminate the problem that the subject is dealing with. If used with a certified hypnotist or psychologist, NLP has been shown to be very effective. There are many different types of NLP programming that have been utilized by hypnotists. Some of the most commonly used forms of NLP include NLP anchoring, NLP flash, and NLP reframe. NLP anchoring. The first type of NLP that will be discussed is NLP anchoring. A good way to think about how anchoring works is thinking about an old song that you know. Have you ever sat in a car and heard a song that you have not heard in a long time? Did that song trigger some sort of feeling in you that came from the past? The first time you heard that song, or sometime down the road when you heard it, you were going through these feelings and the unconscious mind attached these feelings to that particular song. Through this process, the song would become the anchor for these feelings. Now, each time that you hear this particular song, you will trigger the brain to have these feelings all over again. This is a good example of anchoring. Many hypnotists have found that anchoring is a useful technique for them to use in hypnotizing their subjects. For example, if you have a memory of being rewarded for doing something right in the past, the hypnotist will be able to get into that particular memory and help you to recreate the feelings that you were going through at the time. At the same time, the hypnotist will have you do some sort of action, such as touching your two fingers together during the recreation of the process. Now each time that you touch your fingers together, you will be able to feel those same happy feelings again. The process of anchoring can work in order to motivate you to accomplish something by associating good feelings with it. For example, this method is often used to help people find the motivation they need to stick to losing weight and maintaining a diet. The hypnotist will work with the subject to create a positive anchor that is associated with the mental image of the subject. In this case, it will be the subject thinking about themselves in a thin and sexy body. When the subject pictures this image again, they will trigger the anchor and get the positive motivation that they need. In fact, there is a dramatic increase in the motivation for weight loss in those who undergo hypnosis compared to those who do not. The process of anchoring can be used in a variety of different instances to assist in self-improvement of the individual. NLP Flash is another form of hypnosis that is considered to be extremely powerful and only done by a certified professional. It is often used in order to change thoughts and feelings around in the unconscious mind of the subject. It can be a good way to help those who feel chronic stress or are addicted to a substance. In this process, the hypnotist will switch the feelings of the subject around. Instead of a certain act bringing pleasure, that act will start to bring pain, or instead of a certain act bringing stress, it will bring the subject relaxation. For example, someone who is addicted to a substance, such as cigarettes or alcohol, will find a feeling of pleasure and happiness when they consume that substance. Through the technique of NLP Flash, these feelings will get switched around, resulting in the subject feeling discomfort or pain when they consume the substance. This can help them to get over their addiction more effectively. Those who are undergoing a lot of stress have also found the technique of NLP Flash to work well for them. When a person is feeling chronic stress, They may have difficulties in controlling their blood pressure and their tempers and are going to feel uncomfortable a lot of the time. Since stress is so hard on the body, there are many patients willing to undergo the NLP flash hypnosis in order to assist them in relaxing. With this technique, the subject will learn their triggers of stress and redirect them so that those triggers start to release feelings of relaxation in their minds instead. This technique has also been shown to be effective in extinguishing the conditioned responses in the mind of the subject. An example of this is with smoking. If you are a smoker that enjoys a cigarette while having a cup of coffee in the morning, your unconscious brain is going to start pairing these two behaviors together. This means that the subject will get a craving to have a cigarette anytime they enjoy a cup of coffee, especially in the morning. When the subject goes through the NLP flash technique, they will learn how to dissociate the two events from each other. This allows the smoker to have a cup of coffee without also getting the urge to smoke at the same time. This makes it an even more effective technique to use when trying to stop smoking. NLP reframe. The third form of NLP that has been used in hypnosis is known as NLP reframe. This technique is really potent because it works so well in assisting the subject to change the way that they behave. To do this process, the hypnotist must understand that there is a secondary gain, or a positive outcome, that is accomplished by each of the behaviors that a person accomplishes. The outcome that occurs from the behavior is important since that is the reason the subject is acting in the first place. Despite the importance of the outcome, the behavior that is chosen to accomplish the outcome is really not that important. During the process of reframe, the hypnotist works to negotiate and reason with the unconscious mind of the subject. The goal is to get it to take over the responsibility for making the subject substitute in some new behavior that is available and effective at accomplishing the required secondary gain. While this is all going on in the subconscious, the new behavior will be more acceptable to the subject in their conscious mind. For example, if the person is in the habit of eating when they are sad in order to make themselves feel better, the hypnotist is going to perform this method to teach the unconscious to do some other activity. The act of eating might be replaced with exercise or reading a nice book, helping the subject to lose weight, eat healthier and feel better all around. Video hypnosis. While the other forms of hypnosis have been extremely popular in assisting subjects to overcome obstacles and change the way that they think in order to live better lives, new forms of hypnosis are always being developed. One of the newest forms of hypnotherapy that has been developed is video hypnosis. This form is offered through commercial means so that people are able to purchase them and use at their own convenience. The techniques that are used in some of the brands of video hypnosis are also based on the neuro-linguistic programming technology that was discussed earlier. This means that the video hypnosis technique will work based on utilizing the existing thought process. Works to train the unconscious mind. This form is offered through commercial means so that people are able to purchase them and use at their own convenience. The techniques that are used in some of the brands of video hypnosis are also based on the neuro-linguistic programming technology that was discussed earlier. This means that the video hypnosis technique will work based on utilizing the existing thought processes that the subject has rather than using hypnotic suggestion like traditional methods. The reason why video hypnosis has grown so rapidly is that more than 70% of people have found that they learn things easier and more quickly when they see things compared to when they only hear the information. The subject's mind will learn to change the feelings that it is having as well as its visual associations automatically on the conscious level while watching the visual movies that are presented. While there are many different kinds of video hypnosis programs that are available, Neurovision is one of the most popular because it has been developed using some of the best techniques in the industry. This type of video method works to train the unconscious mind of the subject through digital optics, which is a high-tech simulation process on the computer. This will free the subject of their tensions, urges, and compulsions. Through this process, the smoker will find that stopping smoking is easy, the dieter will lose their appetite, and those who feel stress will begin to relax more. It will often take at least a few sessions of video hypnosis to see results, although there are those who find that just one viewing will start to show some of the results that they want. Subliminal hypnosis. The final type of hypnosis that will be discussed in this chapter is subliminal hypnosis. Often the subliminal hypnosis messages will be placed on a recording for the subject to listen to. The recording will have 2 tracks and each one will talk to a different part of the mind. One track will contain a cover sound that will be heard through the conscious mind of the subject. The cover sound is often something that is easy for the brain to listen to, such as nature sounds or music. The other track will contain direct suggestions that will be heard through the unconscious mind of the subject. These suggestions present on the second track will be repeated over and over throughout the whole session. Subliminal programs have the ability to be played at any time and in any place. You could be listening to these messages while you are working or even while watching TV. The best part is you will not have to stop the task that you are doing and sit down and relax like what is required with NLP or traditional hypnosis. In some cases, subliminal programs will be added to your regular hypnotic programs. The use of subliminal programming is not that prevalent. Most people will not choose this method to change their habits and behaviors. Research has shown that subliminal programs are not really that effective, and so they will not be able to replace NLP or hypnosis. By some accounts, it could take more than 80 hours of listening to the subliminal message before it has an effect, and many times even that will not be enough for most people. According to Joel Weinberger, a professor at the Adelphi University and a psychologist, regular audio subliminal tapes that can be purchased at stores or online just do not work. Subliminal psychodynamics may work as long as there is some form of visuals present. The popular options available only contain auditory components. The auditory is not enough to make this method work on its own. Subliminal suggestion will need to be paired with other forms of hypnotherapy in order to have the effectiveness that is desired. Despite the portrayal of hypnosis by the media, it is not an evil plot that is meant to take over the minds of unwilling subjects. In fact, if the subject is not willing to undergo hypnosis, it is pretty much impossible to get them to go into the altered state. Often, the use of hypnosis is to help others improve their lives. This could be in the form of weight management, stopping smoking, improving other health conditions, and assisting with chronic pain management. Each of the techniques is also important in helping the subject to get to their overall goal. While all of them can be effective, the professional that you choose to work with as well as the issue at hand will be used to determine which of these methods will best fit your needs and assist in improving your life. Chapter 4: Manipulation.